Hi everyone. Happy International Women's Day again. And now we have two special guests. And I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves rather than me introducing them. So shall we start with you, Dalia?
Sure. Hi, I'm Dalia. I am a Java developer advocate at Jetbrains. I've been a software developer for many, many years. I've been a developer lead, and finally a developer advocate. And I'm really excited to be here. Happy Women's Day.
Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am a program manager on the Microsoft Edge Developer Experiences team. I've been at Microsoft on the Developer Experiences ecosystem team for 6 years. And I come from a background in web design, so I was doing design before that. And now my role is largely focused on identifying developer needs and developer evangelism. And thanks for having me, Jen.
Great. Well, nice to see you again virtually. We met last year for tea here in London, so good to to see you again. And Dalia, same. Hopefully, we'll get to meet in person one of these days. Since today's International Women's Day, maybe we can talk about things about diversity, inclusion. Since you like began your career or began being more aware about discussions about diversity inclusion, have you actually seen any changes or any positive shifts, either in your workplace or your personal circumstances? Who wants to start with that?
I
Stephanie?
can, yeah, I can start with that. I have actually. So when I started at Microsoft, there wasn't a whole lot of um, work or talk around diversity and inclusion that I was aware of. But I feel like in the last 3 years, there's been an incredible shift, and I'm a part of a ally skills workshop that we run on the Edge team, and that's all about how to be an ally and have difficult conversations. And so there's lots of people like getting involved with that, um, and it's even to a point now where every twice a year we set set goals for the next 6 months, and one of those um, goals needs to be around diversity and inclusion. So how are you going to be? What are you going to do to try and be an ally, or try and um, be better in this space and learn about it? So for me, yeah, I've seen a huge shift.
I can echo that. Like I've seen more and more companies and more of the community talking about diversity and inclusion, how important it is. And I'm seeing more uncomfortable conversations that we would have never touched before, just because they are too risky. And we're learning how to talk to each other about, having crucial conversations and tackling these problems. So I'm grateful to see the industry talking about the issues, and then hopefully we move on to like trying to fix some of the issues, and already seeing more of that. But I'm also seeing that with the pandemic, that has shifted things as well. It's made it both better and worse in certain ways, because it's made resources more accessible. It's made it so that women can get access to information, skills, resources. I've connected with folks that I would have never done before, because we were all kind of caught up in the local uh, community that we're in. But now I'm reaching out to so many awesome women all over the world. But at the same time, I'm also seeing them struggling because of the pandemic, because of the um, all the resources that it takes to and all the duties that tend to traditionally fall on women, and them having to keep up with that while staying in tech. So I've seen a shift both because we've talked more and more about inclusion and diversity, but also because of the pandemic.
Yeah, as I was saying to someone I was talking to earlier, it's the definitely a case of having a lot more education, I guess, so that as you said, a lot more people are talking about it, and that's definitely helping, right? Like trigger a shift in how we look at the diversity and inclusion in our workplaces, and in us as well, on what we personally do to contribute to more diversity and inclusion in the workplace, you know or otherwise. Okay, so as a woman in tech, have you had any particularly positive or particularly negative experience that you want to maybe highlight and talk about?
From my perspective, I've had, I think some of the most fulfilling relationships I've had were other women that are in the same position I am, struggling, or like winning in the space. So I've loved connecting with really wonderful women throughout the tech community, and having relationship with wonderful allies, like men, white men, black men, like different diverse groups that really care about lifting other women up. I think some of the most fulfilling things about my career has been the relationships I've built, and seeing so many people wanting to support me and wanting to lift me up throughout my career and seeing me succeed.
Yeah, so for me, when it comes to positive experiences, I'm gonna sort of echo that too. Like, uh, on my team in particular, on the program management side, there aren't that many women on the team. There are a lot more women software engineers, but on the PM side, there aren't that many, and so we have a very like tight knit group, and it's very nice to have that support system, and we're incredibly close. And some of my favorite and most fulfilling friendships have actually come out of knowing these women through work. Um, and then the other positive thing is, despite some of the negative experiences that I've had, which I'll talk about in a little bit, it is very reassuring to see when I share those experiences, because I'm pretty vocal about that on Twitter when I have a bad experience. The number of men who really do take it seriously and want to know how they can be better. And so that has always just like lifted my heart a little bit when I'm dealing with one of those negative experiences.
Yeah. Great. And I think earlier, before we started this conversation, I think you were chatting, you two were chatting when I was checking something. And I heard that you're, you know, th- you're very happy working in a team where there were other women, because you can have conversations like, for example, our periods or whatever. Does anyone of you want to maybe share that
Sure.
about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a different dynamic when it's okay to kind of have a space where it's all women, and we're struggling with certain things that are just part of our experience. And sometimes, like for me, last year I had an all women team. And it was amazing. And I don't think it's ever going to happen again, but it was just an awesome experience for me. And it really taught me to be more connected to my women colleagues, and we're still talking. We're still like our team, even though certain team members left. We're still chatting. We still keep those connections, and we are more okay having safe spaces where we can talk about, hey, I'm just not feeling it today, and it has to do with my monthly time sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just don't feel great, and and it's okay, and no one's gonna dismiss me, and it's just it's okay. And then we talk about, when is the right time to have children and not impact your career. We talk about all those things and without the fear of judgment or dismissal. So it's been really fulfilling to be able to connect on that level as well.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned something about the safe space. I was chatting to someone about this earlier, especially this time when the world's crazy, really. So some people obviously are affected by what's happening in Ukraine, and people process things like differently as well. So I think providing a safe space, whatever the subject matter is very very important. Not a lot of well, some people actually don't understand what a psychological safe space is, and I just had to like encourage someone to read up more about it, because I don't want to be like what do you call this, too harsh on people just because they don't understand it, but it needs to be encouraged so that we can actually be more supportive of people who actually are processing things differently from how we are processing things. How about in your case, Stephanie? Is there anything you wanna kind of add to what
Well,
Dali said?
I'll sort of add on to the psychological safe space. And just give a quick example. So my manager is he's wonderful about creating that space, and I work with a lot of empathetic people, and of course, most people I know are like concerned and overwhelmed about like what's going on in Ukraine, and so we happen to have a team meeting the next morning after things kicked off over there, and the first thing he said was, "If you need to take today or take some time, obviously take that time, like no questions asked, like process it like however you need to process it." And so it's such a relief to have that sort of support and not even need to ask for it, that it's just given.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely,
And
definitely.
asking each other how to give and get that support, because I have Russian colleagues, I have Ukrainian colleagues, and um we want to help and we feel helpless, but it's like sometimes it's a question of, hey, how can we help?
Okay, yeah,
And uh it's important to realize that each person needs help in different ways, and that we need to not make it about ourselves. It's more about the other person and what they need at the moment and prioritizing that.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's easy to think that people are just getting over it quickly, but there are definitely situations where people are not. It takes them a while, um, and it can just be like a simple thing. At least from someone else's point of view, but maybe the person actually is really struggling with a certain aspect of life, or a certain aspect of what's happening in the world right now. So yeah, yeah, a bit of patience and understanding is definitely going to go a long way. Okay, so focusing on like your companies and what programs they're doing to support women in tech, or support diverse diverse set of employees. Is there any like particular program that you have seen that maybe is worth sharing to our audience, that they can take to their own workplaces?
So the one that comes to mind, and it's not through Microsoft, I believe this is through Google, but it's the
Mhm.
Girls Who Code. Um, I've seen that around quite a bit when I go to when in-person conferences were a thing, at some of the larger conferences.
Mhm.
And I'm sure Microsoft has some, but I haven't seen a whole lot done to evangelize those, if they
Mhm.
do exist, and I'm sure they do.
Were you talking about the I Am Remarkable program from Google, or was it like a different program?
The Girls Who Code. is the
Okay.
name of the program.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. How about you, Dahlia?
Yeah, we like at JetBrains we really like to promote and um amplify the voices of women, and it's been something that like my manager supports. My current manager, my previous manager, we're all about whenever a conference submission is out there, like let's make sure that there's women representatives, and out in the community as well that we're representative. And at my time at IBM, we I participated in a program called Technovation, which taught middle school girls how to code. And that was, I felt like those programs are extremely beneficial because when I was younger, I was not exposed to this tech as an idea or a career path. And it starts really young. It starts from school. And a lot of times people say like, oh, we can't find enough women. But I say like, hey, what are you doing to expose women to technology and make it approachable and welcoming, because it's also not about exposing them only, but also making them feel like they belong and they're welcome. So I really love when companies sponsor programs and gives us the opportunity. Like I had the opportunity to leave work early and go and teach middle school girls how to code, and the fact that the company was behind me on that meant a lot to me. So I really love programs like that. I love programs in the community that help single women, single mothers get into tech. I've seen a few of those. I've seen programs that really emphasize women of non-traditional backgrounds getting into tech. Like all those programs, whenever a company says like this is important enough to invest in and invest our resources into, like that advances our cause a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, definitely getting support from from companies is needed, because as individuals we can obviously devote more time, more volunteer time to do things to help other women and young girls as well. But we're just individuals, we've got limited time, we've got limited resources. And even with this, honestly, with this conference, Techno Day, which I've been running since 2017, I just realized it's our fifth year now. It we're pretty reliant on on companies supporting it, because even virtual events like this, for example, I need a team to like run it. Like there's like 100 plus speakers, and it's impossible for me to be able to handle all the that and coordinate everything. So even with the virtual events, there are costs involved with maintaining a team, and we also obviously run paid ads as well, because you can just rely on a traditional like marketing to reach as many people as possible. And when we do this in person, it's even worse, because like we don't actually charge tickets for this conference. We tried it once when we did it in Taiwan, and to be honest, I was so unhappy with it, because my goal when I started this really was to give opportunities for women to attend the conference for free, so that the ticket cost is not a barrier for them to access the talks and the workshops. We sometimes have like 40 plus hands-on workshops. So yeah, support from companies definitely is very much needed in all these things that we're trying to do, because as I said, individuals are pretty limited in terms of resources. We all have the passion, but yeah, that doesn't like translate too much unless there's more support behind us. So yeah. So I'm glad to hear about this program. So I know about Technovation because I've got a friend in Brazil who's very active in that program as well. So that's good. Maybe we can talk about your careers a bit. How did you like get into tech? What inspired you to pursue, this career path? Who wants to start with that?
I can start. So
Okay.
my um my path into to tech sort of, I didn't plan on going into tech. Like I initially wanted to be a fashion designer. And when I was in high school, I had worked on like getting a portfolio together, and went to a portfolio review. Like I wanted to go to Parsons School of Design in New York, and showed the Parsons representatives my portfolio, and had a terrible experience. Like they just looked at my portfolio and said, "You want to go into fashion?" And it devastated me. And so I ended up taking my portfolio to one of the other schools that was at this portfolio review for students, and inquired about a graphic design degree. And the woman was looking through my portfolio and said, "Yeah, you have an eye for this." And I was like, "Okay, well then that's what I'm going to do." And I went to school for web design, and spent the first couple years of my career like doing design work. I designed a mobile app at a startup, and then I spent a couple years at an agency doing traditional design work. And then I sort of became the web person on that team, where I was handling everything from the user research through wireframes. I'd do the visual design, and then I'd go build it. And so that's how I already had some like coding skills from early the early 2000s. Like as a teen, I would go onto MySpace and LiveJournal and like figure out how to customize things. And so I sort of already knew HTML and CSS and loved it, but not too in depth. And so I really got to dive deep into web development. And so when I was asked if I'd be interested in a role on the Microsoft Edge team as a designer, I was like, yeah, like that sounds great. And it ended up turning into this. I never imagined that I would be a product manager or a program manager for developer experiences. And I almost love it more than design, because I get to identify like those bigger problems and bigger needs, and I get to teach developers. I really love to teach about new stuff. And so, yeah, that's my path sort of. I didn't intend to end up here, but getting hired at Microsoft sort of opened up this whole new career path that I didn't quite know existed, and I love it.
Yeah, I was also chatting to someone who's dealing with developer experience earlier, and she seems to really enjoy that role because there seems to be a lot of like prototyping, experimentation, to identify problems or improvements that can be made. So that's really really interesting, because developer experience, as a whatever, um, career as a career wasn't like really there before. So it's yeah, so things are evolving in tech, and we hear about like different roles that were not in existence before. Maybe maybe it was there, but it wasn't just formally called like that. How about you, Dalia? Or how did you get into tech?
Yeah, my journey was a little bit kind of, I don't know, interesting, because I always loved math, and I always loved physics and all those things. So I thought I should go to school for engineering, and then I went to college. Started with engineering, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do math for a living. So I switched to criminal justice and sociology. So I ended up doing that for a year, and I was thinking, I don't think this is what I want to do for a living. So my one of my friends, my guy friends, who was already doing computer science, was like, Dalia, I think you would really enjoy programming. You should try it out. And it's funny, because I hear that story from a lot of women that never really think about tech until like some other like man that is already doing it says like, hey, did you consider this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. I should do that. So I took 3 classes, ended up doing Python, C, and Java, and really enjoyed it. Just the idea of making the computer do what I want just fascinated me. So I ended up switching majors again, kept my minor in philosophy because I love philosophy. And then I ended up getting my degree in software engineering, and got a job as a developer with IBM, and then later became developer lead. And then, the pandemic hit, and I was having, an existential crisis like a lot of us had. And I was questioning, what do I want to do next. And the developer advocacy role is one that has become more popular in recent years, so I wanted to try that out. So this is where I am right now. And I've really enjoyed talking to developers and also teaching. I love teaching. I've always enjoyed mentoring calculus and all that stuff. So I get to do both. I get to code, I get to teach, talk to developers. So it's been really wonderful.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear the enthusiasm in both, your voices. Given that you are in technology, I hope that encourages a lot of other women to check it out. As you said, sometimes we don't automatically sorry, I'm glad I did this, automatically think of it as a career. But the funny thing is, like, lately, I've been sort of doing it, uh, like encouraging other men actually, who are in like a different career track, to check out tech. For example, I met this guy who's into films. So he's got a degree in films. So he's the creative type, and I said to him, maybe you should like check out tech. Uh, Maybe check out the UI UX side of things, because you're the work like creative type. So yeah, it's been interesting, evangelizing to guys now. I mean, obviously, automatically I do it for women, but I've met some people, like young people who are sort of wondering as well where they're going career wise, and I always like try and like entice people to get into tech, because I've always loved tech. I started as a programmer in Citigroup. Changed roles, because we all evolve in terms of roles. As you said, you're not strictly, just a coder anymore. You're doing things, on top of that, and are helping other developers as well. Okay, so we've obviously talked about the more positive side of tech, and your positive experiences. Shall we now maybe talk about some of the challenges that you've had in the past? Talk about that a little bit, and then talk about how you coped with it, what help you got, what form, in what form. For example, I'll give the floor to both of you. Who wants to start with it?
I'll start. Yeah, I've had a number of negative experiences, ranging from like microaggressions in email, and being told to assume best intent, which after a while you can only use that so often when those microaggressions are coming from the same person, to some full blown like really creepy and uncomfortable experiences, like because I speak at conferences. I had a experience in December of 2020. I was actually speaking, and the event was all online, and the platform was sort of like this. You could enter, like, you had a little avatar and you could enter the conference space, and it almost looked like a video game, and you could sort of interact with people and like sit at tables, and then use the chat, or you could turn on video and audio. And I gave my talk, and went to go sit at one of the virtual tables with my friend Henry, and I had turned my camera off, and someone joined our table and was asking for me, and I assumed like they wanted to know, they had some questions about what I had just spoken on, and they started to ask some like really personal questions and ask where I live, like, can I have your phone number? and it was all in front of my friend Henry, who was there and present and had his camera on, and Henry messaged me to like privately and was like, "Are you okay? Do you want me to stay?" And the absurdity of that question in an online environment was just like blew my mind that this was happening online. And I hate to say that I sort of expect that at an in-person conference because um, I just want to be like prepared for those moments. But the fact that that was happening online and he created a space for me to like leave the virtual table was I just like I shut off my video camera, and this guy continued to ask like Henry how he knew me and was just like trying to get details about me, and it I ended up with a Facebook friend request. This person tried to call me on Messenger. Like it was just
Oh, no.
it was a terrible experience, and the fact that again that it happened at an virtual event just like blew my mind. And so that's one of the like I think more terrible experiences I've had at events. For the most part, I think my event experiences have been good. But then when it comes to like my work I started producing videos for our DevTools team, and people will leave comments asking about my dating life or if I'm single, can I take you on a date? And I'm like, I don't ever see that on a man's video ever. And so it's just so frustrating to be reduced down to, am I available to date? Like, you're not, this isn't a dating app.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, like Twitter's the same. I had to shut off my DMs because you just get some, like, I'm not soliciting, I'm not using Twitter as a dating app. I'm sure some people do. But I don't want those things. And it's just so frustrating again to be reduced down to your looks and then just to have people completely ignore your work and focus on, are you dateable? It's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely annoying. It makes our work really hard as well. Oh gosh, yeah. How about, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say also, and so I've gotten to the point now where I will call that out, and I usually cope by, I don't, depending on the DM, sometimes I'll post a screenshot of it to just be like, look at this situation happening and call it out, because I legitimately feel like if I don't call it out, like that does no good. Like people need to know like this it's still happening, and and then if I don't post it publicly, you can rest assured that I took a screenshot and I am now laughing at you in a group chat of like 7 other people. So
And it's good to share those as well, especially for women, because they all need to be aware as well as what's happening, to other women, right? On this platform. So yeah, it's always good to share those.
Yeah.
How about you, Dalia?
Oh, well, Stephanie, first, I'm really sorry you had to go through that with the virtual event, because that is like super uncomfortable, and yeah, I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, I think there, I have stories too, and it ranges. You get microaggressions, and you constantly have to prove yourself. You constantly have to provide your credentials, because they assume you don't know what you're talking about, and you have to, say no. I'm actually a developer. Like, I know what I'm talking about. You don't need to question everything I do. Just take my information, and if you don't like it, then move on. And with taking this more public role, we're more subjected to those kinds of things. So a lot of times when I see women trying to go into a field or a role that's going to be more public facing, I'm a lot more protective of them, because I've been, I've had leads that have been more protective of me. My previous lead, Trisha G, she would tell me, like, don't read the YouTube comments. I'll read them for you, and I'll tell you if there's anything constructive for you to do something about. And I appreciated that. And she addressed, like, hey, people are not going to be very nice, especially with women in the tech field. We're going to be questions. It's going to be demoralizing. It's just gonna, like, it's gonna have a mental toll. And we're gonna talk about it. We're not gonna dismiss you. We do have a private message for just women where we post these kinds of things because we need an outlet. And like Stephanie said, we might be laughing at you in the background because some of it is ridiculous and we laugh, and some of it is like really hurtful. One of my most hurtful experiences as a woman in tech was me being a team lead and bringing up an issue that had to do with one of my colleagues' conduct. And my coworker, that is like a lot more experienced than me, said, "Oh, I know this is something that women worry about because they always want to make sure everyone is okay," or something along those lines. And I was his lead, and I said, like, this is a leadership problem. This is a professionalism problem. This is not a woman problem. And sometimes you don't even have the mental capacity to reply, and you have to sit there and be like, oh, there could have been 100 replies I could have said, and you take another mental toll on it.
Yeah.
But it's hurtful because we have to work twice as hard and we get questioned twice as much. And then when I see women leaving, I sympathize with them, and then I see folks saying, see, they just couldn't handle it. I'm like, well, you have no idea how much more mental strength and emotional energy it takes to stay in this field. So I automatically have 100% more respect for any woman that stays around and sticks to this career. And I'm always encouraging and uplifting any woman I see in tech, because it's rough out there, and I'm glad they stuck around because it makes me feel like I have other people around that are gonna, I can watch and see, okay, she's still here. Let's keep going.
Some sort, yeah, some sort of support. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of horror stories out there. About women in tech really getting discouraged and wanting to leave uh, the industry, which is really sad. We're here, we are trying to get more women in tech, and then we're losing women in tech.
Yeah.
Because
It's
of all this attitude that we're getting, and sometimes it's not just men. Honestly, right? I'm sure you've encountered other women who are not like very supportive of you know of you. So that that makes it more difficult because you can't expect that as a woman, themselves, as women themselves, that they'll be more supportive, but sometimes it's not the case. And Stephanie, you mentioned something about this thing where companies or people in management saying good intent. I'm always like I've been in circumstances where I've been told that, like,
Mhm.
just assume good intent, but I'm saying to myself, but that's not like that. That action doesn't really jive with good intent. Like, no, I can't like accept that. So
Yep.
it's very interesting, yeah, to be told that. Anyway, shall we talk about mentoring now? So something more positive. Are you mentoring yourself? Are you being mentored? What are the mentoring programs out there that you've been through or you're aware of that you want to talk about?
I am a big proponent of mentoring. It's changed my career. I've had mentors that have been um, so influential in my career. I've had women mentor, men mentor, like different. And people of color, because I'm also Arab, so I have to. There's another aspect to it. It's not just being a woman, but also a person of color. And I've had different mentors, and I've had sponsors too, and those are super important, because a lot of times if the mentorship is not really helping you grow, and it's not really helping you find opportunities, then it doesn't really translate to anything tangible. So I am a big proponent of mentorship and sponsorship. Always talk about it. The ways I found mentors and sponsors is to go out there and find folks that I look up to and reach out and ask them questions about how they've built up their skills, in whether it's leadership or Java or development or whatever it is. I always make sure that I reach out, build relationships, network, and do all that work, and I stick with those folks. Like, whenever I find a mentor that we jive with, and like I'm getting a lot of value from, and they're enjoying my chats, like I stick with them, like I it's such a valuable thing that I've had. And it's opened up so many opportunities for me too, and I've been so grateful for that. And now I mentor as well, and I find any opportunity and every opportunity to find women mentees or men mentees, whoever really is trying to make it out there and is trying to find opportunities, and I'm trying to help them not make the same mistakes I've have. And I actually just had a mentor meeting today with one of my mentees, and it was so great just being able to provide some help and maybe make her life a little bit easier, because then she's more likely to succeed faster than I did, and that means the world to me. So yeah, if you don't have a mentor right now, highly recommend reaching out to a few people and seeing if you can build those relationships.
I have a mentor. And I think I've had one for about 3 years. And then I'll call her an unofficial mentor, but I do have a colleague who is in a principal position, and we're fairly close, and do occasionally get, when we talk about work and sort of where I'm struggling, she does give great advice. So it's really helpful to have a mentor. I will quickly plug my colleague Aaron Gustafson. I believe he's still doing. He was doing a mentorship program. I think it lasts a year. And I think he's still doing it, but he'll take on a couple mentees every year. So if you're interested in the web space, he is a wonderful human, and is my mentor at work. So yeah.
The other thing about finding mentors, because it's awesome that there's folks out there that are offering slots, and I always tell people, like, just ask, and if they say no, ask them if they have another recommendation. Treat it kind of more of a like try different people. I had actually, it was a women's presentation where they were talking about mentorship, and the presenter was saying, like, it's more like dating than marriage. You're not married to your mentor. I have multiple mentors, like, and I've had mentors that I just, it didn't work out. We didn't really we really didn't have a lot to talk about, and we just stopped meeting. So I a lot of times I encourage people to just reach out and ask for a meeting and see if you spent 15 minutes talking or you spent an hour talking. If you spent an hour talking, that means that you're really jibing and it's great.
Yeah.
And it's just 15 minutes and there isn't much to talk about. That's fine. Just try out talking to different things. The other thing that I want to talk about was one of my other mentees. When we sat down and talked, she was like bringing up certain things that she didn't think she needed help with. And she came on and she said, I don't have an agenda. And we started talking and she started realizing there is stuff that is on her mind. And a lot of times as women, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure things out on our own and not ask for help. Like, I can do it. But a lot of times, like, it's okay to ask for help, and there is so many people out there that want to help and have so much great advice to share. So like being vulnerable and opening up and seeing if someone has some advice for you out there that's going to be valuable. One day you'll find that one person that really cares about your career and they're going to invest in it. And I've been lucky enough to have multiple people like that, but it took me going out and asking for a meeting in order to build those relationships. So it's been so valuable for me.
Yeah, I always say to people that yeah, you should definitely look into having several mentors, and a mentor doesn't necessarily have to be someone senior than you. You can actually learn from young people as well. Like I learned from people younger than I. So yeah, it's always good to have a number of mentors from different backgrounds and different experiences. So yeah, that's always helpful. Okay, so thanks, Dalia and Stephanie, for joining me today. This has been an interesting conversation, and I hope that our audience learned a lot from it, and hopefully they'll apply all these learnings to their career, life, etc. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Maybe I'll start with you, Dalia.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to encourage all the women out there to like, we're all in this together. We are experiencing hardships, and I'm sorry that you have to experience these like really crappy experiences. And, but I encourage you to reach out when you are in those tough spots, and ask for help when you need help. Please stay around. I love seeing more women in tech, and if you're in a position where you can help other women in tech, like um, it's so great to lift each other out up, because it just makes it so much more fulfilling, and it makes it a better experience for all of us. So if you're struggling right now, please reach out to someone and see if they can help out, and know that it gets better with the help with others too. Like you don't have to do this on your by yourself. And if you're doing well, see if you can reach out to someone and mentor them. That would be great. But yeah, keep doing good things out there, and we'll keep rooting for you.
Thanks, Dalia. Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll sort of echo that sentiment a bit. I'm big on sharing your experience. So if you feel comfortable sharing your experience as a woman in tech, whether it's good or bad, like I think the world needs to see those, and I would love to see more positive experiences being shared. I know I tend to be one who shares all the negative ones, and that can probably be a little bit intimidating, but there are good moments and amazing moments, and so there's a wonderful network of women out there who are ready to support you and lift you up, and yeah, just reach out and share your experience.
Thank you for that. And yes, so from all of us, the message is stick around. There are people who would be supporting you. Reach out and yeah, find those mentors and sponsors. As Dalia said, it's very important. So thanks again to both of you, and happy International Women's Day, and happy International Women's Day to everyone who's watching us right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.